Përshëndetje dhe mirë se erdhët në program. Që nga viti 2022 filloi invazioni rus në Ukrainë dhe mbase pak mund ta parashikonin se luftimet do të vazhdojnë deri më sot. Vëmendja për luftën në Ukrainë shfaqet dhe ikën, por drama njerëzore atje vazhdon dhe po aq mosbesuese janë njoftimet se në kufijtë e Europës në shekullin e 21 numri I viktimave civile nga luftimet të jenë aq të mëdha dhe aq brutale. Me miliona refugjat, ndërkohë po aq të zhvendosur dhe me mijëra të vrarë. Sot në program do të sjellim një bisedë me dy fotografë të jashtëzakonshëm, Svetllana Bahçevanova dhe Kristofer Okikone. Imazhet e tyre kanë dominuar mediat botërore dhe mbamendjen globale për luftën në Ukrainë. Sigurisht ata kanë mbuluar edhe në zhvillime të tjera. Do të sjellim për shkrimet e tyre për luftën, por dhe guximin e madh që e kanë fotografët të përfshihen në ngjarje të tilla. Ata janë në studio dhe unë I them faleminderit shumë që jeni këtu. Thank you very much for being part of this program. We're going to start and discuss about your book and about exhibition, but also about your courage to take part in some extraordinary events that are globally, not just local. But my first question to you is, do you think that photographs, photojournalists are appreciated as much as you should, as much as they should? I will start with you, Svetllana.
How much they should?
I don't know. You tell me.
I think that there is a little bit changing in the society towards what photojournalists do, and this is also part of the propaganda, to kind of mistrust the media, mistrust what they present, the images. Very often we hear that some of these images in the book are actually created. We should be really very good to be able to create such a scale of things. So I think that there is a process when photojournalism work is a little bit unappreciated, as it must be. But what we do is just fight, showing the true, and confirming every time that what they do is honorable work. Those are brave people that risk their lives, and eventually this will change. Education.
Kristofer Okikone, you are in Ukraine for so many years, and you are American. And again, maybe the same question. Do you think that photojournalism is appreciated as much as it should?
I mean, I think, as Svetllana was saying, that there's voices that are out there that might encourage people to distrust the media, and I think sometimes it becomes like a blanket distrust, whereas like I think people, obviously you should question what you hear and try to verify things, but I think in general we're appreciated for what we do. And I know, like, working in the field, when you go to a place that's recent, like where wounds are fresh, something awful has just happened, and you come there and document it, that people want, and I think we'll talk about it a little more later, specific examples, but they want to show you, look what happened to my daughter, look what happened to my house. They want you to...
Okay. This is a short intro for you two. Of course, we're going to explain to the audience what extraordinary work you have done. Do të rikthehemi pas shkëputjes me rrëfimet, do të kisha thënë, tejet personale, por interesante të jetës së tyre, por dhe çfarë I sjellin publikut në këtë libër që e kam këtu, por dhe ekspozitën që ishte në Shkup. Na ndiqni. Jemi rikthyer në program Svetllana Bahçevanova dhe Kristofer Okikone, të dy fotograf lufte, por sigurisht gazetar ose fotogazetar, siç edhe I njohim ne në gjuhën tonë profesionale. This is extraordinary book. We will show some of the pictures so the people can also see what you have done. But what it struck me when I was going through the book was one quote there that usually also we in the Balkans say. And Svetllana, you are Bulgarian, but worked all over. Yes, yeah. you are from the Balkans, and you would know probably more this quote that we are used to say that the winners are the ones who write the history. But you try to challenge this as a photographer,
I did
as a
challenge
photographer, as a publisher, and also you try to challenge this with your work. So can you explain a little bit why?
I think it's very simple. Because I grew up in Bulgaria, most of my life went under communism regime. So first thing after the fall of the wall, there was a newspaper that was created in Bulgaria, first anti-communist newspaper, Democratia. So I started working for them. The sooner we start working and the newspaper kind of gain trust among the people, they start coming to share stories that happened before, things that were done by the regime. But there was always stories and never pictures. So we were telling stories in the newspaper, but we don't have any visual. And if they were visual, they were destroyed by the previous regime. So for me, it became absolutely clear how important is that documentation. When the war started in Ukraine, being from Bulgaria, knowing what the Russians are capable for, I said, we have to document this from the beginning, because otherwise we'll be, oh, that did not happen, oh, that stage. So now we have this book, 540 pages, 93 photographers from 23 countries. Everyone is saying the truth. 38 of them wrote essay about their experience while photographing a particular war crime. So this is another level of documentation of the crime. That was my idea. We had an open call, we collected all the images, 7,000, and we have the book.
Yes, it's an extraordinary book with extraordinary stories, let's say, that photographs are writing, but also extraordinary pictures, and most of them probably we cannot show it here because they are so dramatic and documenting an event that, as I said in the beginning of the program, maybe the audience or the public, try to shift and then they kind of forget that the war is happening in Europe. What's your feeling about this, Kristofer? Because you have covered the war all the time, and what's your feeling when the people, the public, it's not not only the public, but they don't have all the power of the war in their mind.
I mean, it's understandable. Obviously, it's upsetting because it's the place I live and it's happening. But like, for example, I went to Italy, I don't know when, end of last summer, and did a story with my cousin about depopulation. He's a writer in Italy, about depopulation in the village where our families come from. And when I talking to people there and explain, they know my last name, I've been there before, and photojournalist, that's so cool. Where you work, Ukraine, oh, it's really sad what's happening there. They don't know what else they're going to know. They know only the little bit they see, but you're looking at for example, a village that had 2,000 people 20 years ago and now has 500. They are in it's a museum to the village. They have their own problems. I understand that. They are living in their own little apocalyptic, less dramatic, but apocalyptic scenario. Their world is falling apart around them. How much can they do to help? I'm going to ask them to write letters to Italian parliaments, Italian senators to send money to Ukraine. I understand they have their own problems. But on the other hand, I think the kind of work we do at least encourage them to be mindful when they're voting, who they're voting for, if they're listening to Russian propaganda, if they're listening to normal Western media that's telling them what's happening. This is the most I think I can expect. What more can you expect?
Yes.
It's media responsibility to keep people informed. If they don't, that means somebody prevent them from doing so.
I want to make this reference because your work is not only in Ukraine. Yeah, you have worked so many years. So maybe let's explain to the public a little bit about yourself. And I know for you, Svetllana, that you also worked in Kosovo. And this is again a little bit of coincidence, but Kosovo marks 25 years now of their dramatic historic event. events. So what would you say to the people when you cover these kind of events, and how important is photography and documenting? And explain, explain, of course, what you have done for years.
I think it's extremely important. For me, also has a private reason to be so important. I will go to this. But yes, I was here 26 years ago, maybe. And I had the kind of misfortune to document something that later became evidence of war crime. It was a village near Pristina where I went there with my colleagues, and there was a workhouse filled with bodies that were there from weeks. And people from the village did not bury them because they wanted to be photographed and to see what is done to these people. So basically I found a workhouse with coffins, and inside of them there were men that were live castrated and also live open and left to die. So this is what I found. I photographed this, and later, of course, the agency distributed, and later these images were inquired by the International Criminal Court. So I was very young back then. I did not know actually the power of the photography. For me, that was new, that you could do this with by documenting. You could go further and ask for accountability. So that helped me later when I left Bulgaria and moved to the United States. It helped me to determine what I want to do with my life in a country where there's all these possibilities. So I decided to create photo evidence and to publish story that media do shy away.
And I want to make some kind of reference, you know, for what's going on right now in Ukraine. You know, there is a war, and of course people have a lot of drama going on, and now we have this other war 25 years ago in Kosovo, and people still refer to these events according to documents that you and people like you have done it. How powerful do you think is this, and how should we refer to this situation?
Let me tell you, the exhibit that opened a few days ago in the National Gallery, Ukraine War Crime, was in Pristina before it came here. So I had the chance to meet with people and talk about, and of course we talk about the war in Kosovo. And we discovered that there is no evidences that are collected, nothing is published. And even one of the women that I spoke with, she told me that while studying in Columbia University, she wanted to work on war crimes committed in Kosovo. When she went to the library, there were books only from Serbian authors. So the truth is lost. There are no two sides even. So we talk about, guys, you have to do something. We have this book for Ukraine. Everything is preserved there.
Why not
Why not
Kosovo?
try? I mean, the journalists that work in Kosovo, they're still alive. Some of them are very prominent now. And something needs to be done. So that's very important, that documentation.
So, Kristofer, then how should the public, according to you, view this book and the photographs? Of course, the exhibition will be opened in Skopje for a few weeks, but and people can go and see it. But again, this documentation, do you think is more than journalism?
In what sense? No, I mean...
In sense of that, you know, it resembles it underlines our knowledge of what a particular war is.
Yeah, I mean, it's the journal, like whatever is journalism today becomes history. It is the written history or the visual history, and you need it. Like what Svetllana was saying about what she saw in Kosovo. If you imagine, like, there's with Bucha this massacre of civilians, and it was more than just a massacre of civilians. There was widespread rape. We got testimony of this from people, all kinds of things. And I see when I look at Twitter and things like this, that pro-Russian voices say things like various conspiracy theories. And it doesn't even matter what the theory is, whether it's actors or the Ukrainians did it to frame the Russians. Whatever it is, like you're planting these seeds, right? And if there's no pictures of it, if there's no testimony taken, who do you believe?
Okay, so I want to focus now a little bit about the events in Ukraine, the civilian drama. What it struck me when I saw the book and some of the pictures is that, and again, when we make some references to wars that probably we know here in Balkans, is the refugees. In our mindset, when I remember the pictures of, for example, Kosovo war, is that the people, thousands of people living, and they were men, women, children. In Ukraine, you had only children and female. Mm-hmm. So can you explain this a little bit?
Well,
why?
It's between, I forget the exact, maybe 20 and 60, you have the duty to serve your country if you're called. So you could be called, so you can't leave. Unless, of course, like men do come and go, like who have demonstrated as a process, you demonstrate that you're a volunteer, certain cultural things that promote the country, there's reasons to come and go. But I mean, when it's women and children, it's the most vulnerable people in society. I mean, there's a picture on the wall right now. Yeah. How many times, I can't even tell you how many times, especially in the beginning in Kyiv, it's shocking because it's people that are like the same as you, and they're living in a basement in total fear. Like this, I don't know, did I take that? It's my picture?
No.
Oh, okay, I have similar. So, they're like, you're looking at people that if sometimes you look at a war in a different country and you think, that could never happen to me. And I would say, like, when people in this region look at the faces, look at how they're dressed, look at the buildings around them, you should feel like this is, if you're a young person, this is my parents' generation. If you're a guy our age, this is our generation. These are people you know. You should identify with these people super easily, much more easily than you would somebody on the other side of the planet. This is Europe. You can drive there in 24 hours. So, you know, as you say about the refugees, it's women and children. It's people. What are they going to do? Your child. What are you going to do if you're a mother with a child? You're going to stay and you look at the destruction. You're going to stay there. You have no choice. You have to go.
But when you compare it to the Balkans, do you think it makes more impact when you see only women and children? Because men, you know, as we know, had to stay and fight in there. And then I say this because Ukraine, for Balkan countries, it's a big country, and the war is happening only in a part of the country. But we talk about millions. We don't talk about thousands of refugees, displaced people, and thousands of victims, of course.
We could assume that everyone in Ukraine knows what the Russians are capable for, so they prefer to stay away. That's normal. Normal is the men to stay and defend their country. I think that's also a moral duty in a way.
Yes, but the book has a strong name, Ukraine War of Crime, war crime, yeah. Do you think that what's happening there, and of course there are some documentation as I saw it, it will be remembered in the future as a war crime?
I would be surprised if it's not. I mean, I assume that some nations may delete what happened from their history, but sometimes brave publishers write history. So this book will continue to exist, and we are preparing another one to continue a follow-up book which focuses on how the war affects children, women, and soldiers, which will be what will happen next. And it's happening right now. So this is the lack of education, the destroyed building, the schools that become places of torture, or hospitals, the women that are raped. We have a story of a 79-year-old woman that was raped, gang raped by Russians in her own house, testimony. And we also have all these soldiers coming back, most of them with post-traumatic syndrome. There's not too much possibility of help, so it will be they're coming back, no help, a broken family, and the whole story is clear. It happens all the time wherever there is war.
But why I make this question? Europe right now it had a dilemma. Should they support Ukraine and should not support Ukraine? I know that I'm probably putting you in a territory where you do not want to comment, because you're journalists, you're covering whatever is seeing. But and this is important question for us as journalists, because if we have an idea that we defend it, and then now we kind of probably we leave that idea, that is not good for everyone, yeah?
No, look, it's very simple. The war in Ukraine, Ukraine is 2,000 kilometers from here. We, in this part of the world, we have experienced wars, war crime, dictatorship. We know what it is. So we have to make this choice. It's not about, oh, do we support? No, we support the right thing, and the right thing is against dictatorship, for democracy, against the dark, for light. Be honest. So we have to take position. We cannot leave the Russians to force and let them do what they're doing there. We need to have a position.
I don't think it is even a position. I think it's very objective. Like, I come to your house, I rape your wife, I kill your daughter. That is bad, right? Yes, it's bad. Objectively, it's bad, or subjectively, only from your point of view. Is there another point of view that says, like, well, you know, he was asking for it. He was a bit of a troublemaker. He provoked. No, it's bad, right? It's that simple. It's just that it's not on a one-house scale. It's on a national scale, objectively.
And one of the reasons that I included this personal story is that there is another phrase that war becomes personal when it enters your home. And while I was working on the book, I have to read all the captions, I have to read all the stories. So I start knowing these people. I know the family members, I know the name of the guy that is killed. They're like, I mean, for months working on the book, they became my company, my people. So how you forget that? It enters the house. It enters with the book together in the house, and you start reading and become personal, maybe.
I think what you're just saying is very strong, and this is what I want to emphasize, because we had here in our country, but also in other media outlets, that trying to spread fake news, especially online, and sometimes to not underline the reality, what's happening in the ground. So being there, that's why I want you to tell to audience that this is as dramatic as it can be, yeah?
I would hope it wouldn't get any more dramatic. No, it's about as dramatic as can be. I guess they could nuke us. That would make more dramatic, but you know, it's as dramatic as it could be. Yes. Yeah.
I want to underline another thing. You mentioned Bucha, and again, there are stories written by other photographers that refer to Russian history before this invasion, but. Audience here probably know about Bucha, but there are other crimes that probably the audience didn't catch it, or maybe we don't. Yes, maybe we don't even know to pronounce the names. But how can you explain this, and how dramatic it was for you?
I mean, you see what they do. It's like, if you can imagine. So, because for the last 10 years I've been covering the East. The war in the South, I'm not, I can tell, I mean, they just assume, and from what I know, what I see, the same phenomenon going all around this border where there's fighting in the front line. But I'm going to the same places that I've been photographing for 10 years just because it's familiar, if that makes sense. I know the roads, I know the towns, I just feel a sense of security. But what you've seen is like all of these different, from villages to cities, of just like a black cloud rolling across, like slowly, like a zombie movie, slowly moving, and it's all the same. You can watch a city as it gets closer to the front line, front, how it deteriorates, how it unravels, how the whole social structure falls apart, and the schools are gone, the hospitals aren't working, anybody who can leave has left, so only the most vulnerable people are there, and you watch this like just mayhem and destruction slowly, until it becomes the front line, and they burn the place to the ground. And like, even the small percentage of people who stay, who are pro-Russian, dead. That's it, dead. What do they want some old lady who wants to wave a Soviet flag for? What do they want her for? Dead. They destroy everything in their path. And I've seen it time and time and time again. That's what they do. So you don't need to be an expert on Soviet tactics, Russian imperialism from the Tsar's times. Just look at what's going on now. It's quite clear, and we hope to make people be able to see, add to the body of work that lets people see what's happening.
Of course, we read a lot of articles and a lot of quotes, and one that it struck me a few months ago, it was that we never believed that in Europe we'll see this kind of level of death and destruction and brutality. But reading it is something else. Seeing it is probably more traumatic. Do you, as a human being and also as a journalist, believe that after Second World War, after the wars in Balkans, we would see this kind of level of death?
Because I'm sure everybody in the Balkans was like, after World War II, this could never happen here, right? And it happened. It happened very easily. There was plenty of gasoline, somebody put a match on it, right? And the same thing there. There's no like, the idea of like a war to end all wars is profoundly naive. I mean, the First World War was called the War to End All Wars. And here we are. So, and then there we were 10 years later, fighting a war twice the size of the first one again. And this is all a continuation of that. I think there's all, what happened in the Balkans is a result of World War II. It's all piling on, and it'll happen again. This will end, and we'll say never again. All right, no, this time seriously, never again. And we'll do it again, maybe in 50 years.
So Svetllana, the same question, even for politicians, this is unbelievable. This is I heard them say it in conferences, in big speeches, that probably humanity will not do something like we are seeing, and then it happened. Now, and how dramatic is that for you? That history repeats itself. The humankind, it kind of cannot learn from the past.
Yeah, it is that. One of the things that kind of torture me at night when I think about the war in Ukraine or other places, it's about how people could be in their daily life like regular man, accountant or lawyer or film director, and the next day they grab gun and they start killing. So that means that it's inside of us, and we are ready to do it for simple provocations like being nationalist, caring about your country, hating the neighbors. People just go and kill each other. But what we witness and the fact that we cannot do anything, that kills me. We're just sitting in front of the TV, watching censored news about the war, and this is all. It's happening in front of our eyes. We can't do anything. So as a publisher, I thought maybe I could do just a book.
Okay, we will make a short break and we will return and ask you a little bit about your personal challenges. How tough is for you to go and cover these kind of dramatic events that probably will determine history. Do të rikthehemi me rrëfimet e dy fotografëve të jashtëzakonshëm që kanë bërë një libër, por edhe ekspozitën me krimet dhe me viktimat e mëdha të luftës që po ndodh në Ukrainë. Pas pak. Jemi rikthyer në studio me një bisedë teje të veçantë me dy personazhe fotograf, Svetllana Bahçevanova dhe Kristofer Okikone, të cilët me punën e tyre kanë sjell imazhe të fuqishme për mediat më të rëndësishme globale, që pa diskutimi bie dhe ne, na kam prek dhe ne me imazhet, pavarësisht se ndoshta nuk e kemi ditur që janë të tyre, për luftën në Ukrainë. So, I want to make this last part of our conversation about you. because we have soldiers and we have journalists, but also we have photographers. And maybe not everybody knows that it is a strong need to actually go and be there, and it's courageous and also it's dangerous. So my question for you first, Kristofer, is why you decided to go to Ukraine and to stay there for years and to document everything what's going on?
So I was, I mean, just long story short, I was always close to my grandfather, who was a veteran of the Second World War. I grew up hearing his stories about the comradeship. I never really heard about blood or violence or anything like this, just about this interesting group of guys that he became so close with. And I wanted to understand him. That's one factor. And two, I studied history in university. I'd read a lot about the region. And as also, third factor, I guess, as an American, you, growing up in the 80s, at the height of the Cold War, I don't know if it's the height, but we had nuclear drills. You go under the desk, Russians, scary, they're going to get us. So all of these factors led me in 2014 to contact a volunteer battalion and go with them. It was early in my career, and go with them. And after that, as I start to understand the situation better and you know, just meeting people and talking, I start to feel that this, what's happening now, this second phase of the war that started in 22, everybody, as much as we can say that the politicians didn't see it coming, if you read intelligence reports, predicted. Guys on the ground, Ukrainians, that I know who were active in the war for the first 8 years, waiting for it, preparing. Like if they weren't prepared, Kyiv would have fallen. Absolutely. If these guys who were fighting from the beginning weren't ready.
So let's explain a little bit to audience. How is one day, how is your one working day when you go to the front line? So basically, you're dressed like a soldier.
I mean, not dressed like a soldier, but I'm wearing kind of a blend in, like where it never would look like too much like a soldier, but also just you don't want to stick out either. So wearing comfortable kind of tactically-ish clothes, and also like very quickly you haven't you don't shower for 2 or 3 days and you just look messy like everybody else. You just kind of blend in. And I stay with my way of working is I stay with the same guys over and over again. So when new people come, like who's that guy? Oh, he's one of us. He's here, you know, just part of the, become kind of part of the scenery. And then like the working day, there is no working day. Like I'm working on a project for 2 years about a frontline hospital. So like guys get injured, they come 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So there's no like working day, and you kind of, and I think a lot of photographers work like this. You go in the field, you photograph for how long you can stand, you know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you go back someplace a little quieter. You look at your images, especially if you're freelance and not filing every day, you know, like not doing news, you're working on a longer story, and you look at your pictures, curate them, edit them, look at what you got, think about what you want to do when you return. And it's, you know, you definitely build, you're living with people, so you become part of your family, their family, you know, and you're experiencing things together, like guys get killed, you go to the funerals. You photograph them, but you're also mourning. It's a strange position to be in because you're not one of them, but you're like a distant cousin, I guess. You're not family, but you're a little bit.
You're part of their lives. Svetllana, is it hard as a woman maybe to do this kind of job, let's say, because the level of danger is high, and again, maybe it's not so common to see women photographers in the front lines?
Probably I'm not the right person to ask because I gave up on this a long time ago.
Yeah, but you have again.
Yeah, and then I decided that what I could do better is I always dreamed to be a publisher, and what I could do better is publish the work of these brave photographers, So this is what I do now.
Yeah, but I referred to the question again because of your previous history, previous your work, and then you shared some of the.
I did not feel uncomfortable being a woman. Usually, I was surrounded with men. They were very quiet with me, very respectful. I traveled in Kosovo to work on a mass grave that was in one of the mountains, and I was just alone with one man from the nearby village, and we were like in the middle of the wilderness, and I thought that's a little bit, At the same time, a truck with soldiers is coming, and I'm just me there, and I was thinking maybe now, never ever. It was just such a respect and gratitude to what we do, and I felt like everybody else. I didn't think I'm a woman.
And I can say, you're talking about some time ago, 25 years ago. Looking at the war now, when I see women working in the field, if they're Ukrainian women, the guys take great care of them. And there's also so many women fighting, so many women medics that nothing strange for Ukrainian foreign women if they don't speak the language. I find that guys are extra careful with them, super respectful. It's definitely like here, the way language is. People are very polite. Everybody worried if you had enough to eat, had enough to drink. You're comfortable. You're okay. Your bed is okay. How are you getting there? How are you getting there? Let me call somebody. Let me help you. I find they go out of their way to make sure women are comfortable because they know maybe it could be uncomfortable because there are less of them.
Okay.
They go.
A little bit more personal. When you see these kind of pictures, you do a great job because you photograph, you document, and then you don't leave history to be interpreted differently. But how difficult is for you personally, for both of you, when you see so much death and so much blood around you? You spoke a little bit earlier about soldiers with PTSD, but what about yourself?
I mean, it's an ongoing situation. I can't really sleep, and it's when you leave and you think about what you have time to reflect on what you saw. That's the harder part. Being in the middle of it, of course, there's adrenaline, and you have a sense of purpose. You're here to do something. Especially on longer projects, I enjoy I like being around soldiers. I'm comfortable kind of being vulgar and being a little bit of a savage. I fit in, I like it. And I enjoy the dark humor, all of that. And then I leave and I go back. And actually, two things with that. There's a certain amount of anxiety you have, I'm going to stay as long as I can stay, in 2 weeks or so. And then you think, I'll leave on Saturday, and it's Tuesday. And you start thinking, when I go back to Kyiv, I'm going to see my girl. We're going to go have some pizzas, have a couple beers, right? And you start thinking about normal life. And that actually is harder. The soldiers sometimes say, we don't have that problem because we're never leaving. There's only one way to leave. Two ways, injured or dead. So there's that. You have this kind of hanging over you. And then you need to go back, and you're looking at your pictures, and you're thinking, Jesus, what have I seen? You see people just ripped apart, and you obviously think about all the future trauma they're going to have, and of your friends who are medics and doctors who, if I'm there a week and I've seen 300 wounded, and then I leave for 2 weeks, it just never stops. It just never stops for them.
Again and again and again.
Everybody jokes about Groundhog Day, or they're on a merry-go-round. It's like I writing with one of the guys this morning, what's new? He's like, what do you think is new? Nothing? You're correct, nothing.
I would just say that it's very simple. I wish I did not see some of these images, and I wish I could forget some of them, but I can't. They're coming back to me. It's haunting. And it was difficult while working on the book because we have 7,000 images. We have to go several times through them, read every single text, every caption. And in some point, it's traumatizing. It's like spending time on the front line, for 4 months, just editing and see everything that every other photographer photographs, so you're part of this. And at the end, I felt like I stopped sleeping. If I fall asleep, I wake up and I have things in my head. I'm driving, I see a truck, and I see a tank. I see the truck as a tank. I see a cemetery. I see a vineyard, and it looks to me as a cemetery. So at that point, I realized that slow down. Luckily, it was the end of the book, so yeah.
So it finished. So one of the saying is, what is seen, it can be unseen. So this is traumatic for you as a journalist, as a photographer, but it is important that the world don't forget what you have seen and now what we can see through your lens.
And I think as long as you remember why you're doing it, it helps with that. It absolutely helps. You know, like you're showing what happened in Bucha when I was on the front line and a guy had triple amputation. And he asked the surgeon, like, who is that guy? Me. Who is that guy? And he said, oh, he works with the National Archive of Ukraine. And the guy says, this picture's going to be in the National Archive. And you know what he said? Sit me up. He wanted to sit up and, like, ask him to fix his hair. Like, this is madness. But, like, this, like, little thing is like, okay, that's what I'm doing here. Because sometimes you forget, like, you're interfering, you're involved in somebody's most intimate moments. And as long as I think you keep your sense of purpose, it balances out like whatever potential trauma you might have, because you have a reason.
And also, just one thing that came to my mind, working 10 years with documentary photography promoting human rights violations, I came to understand that even the strongest picture cannot change the world, but it could influence people to make changes, to start making changes.
Yes, in the end, I wanted to ask something about this. Because we regard the photography and the journalism as part of the history. It becomes our reporting and your photographers. But as a publisher and as a photographer, what do you think when the history, when the people who have power, they delete part of the history? And how bad is that for humankind?
It's very bad, but they don't have our PDF files of the book. They cannot delete everything. I think it's very bad. I think it's very bad. It doesn't help It doesn't help to have these historical memories that will prevent you from doing again and again the same mistakes. But not too many people have this.
I think it's much better now. Like if you look at the history of Ukraine, they had during collectivization, 3 to 5 million people starved to death. One Welsh photographer snuck to Kharkiv, and there's a handful of pictures. And the only thing left is just stories. Like my partner has stories from her grandparents who survived it as children. Only stories. Like now, the amount of photographs, the amount of video taken by professionals, and just everybody with a phone is always recording something. It's just, I think there's an overwhelming amount of material that it can't be deleted now. It can be manipulated and played with, but the truth is there and for everybody to see, and it can't be taken away.
The history in the Balkans always had played a strong role, and there has been always interpretation about the events, but people like you make it more factual what happened, and that's why I wanted to discuss about this in the end, because it tells that the event happened, and then as much as you interpret it, we know what's going on. I really thank you for being part of this program and sharing a little bit of your work in the ground and your personal thoughts about one of the wars that is happening right now in Europe. Të dashur teleshikues, këtu do të mbyllim programin me do të thoja unë bisedë të veçantë me dy fotografë që zakonisht nuk I shohin para kamerave, po janë pas kamerave, pas lenteve të tyre. Me çka përshkruan atë çfarë kanë parë në një nga luftrat që është duke ndodhur tani në Europë. Programi 200 do të vi sërish javën që vjen. Deri atëherë, mirupafshim.